Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Stefanie Drysdale's weekly cybersecurity recap, number 90. It's Friday, September 4th, 2021. Ms. Stefanie, welcome back.
Thank you, Chuck. How are you?
I'm doing well, getting ready for GSX. It's just around the corner, literally Monday. I have probably about 40 or 50 people signed up to do virtual interviews. I'll be here in Arizona, and people will be at the press room at GSX. What is Prescient doing on the floor at GSX this year?
Well, I don't like to be strapped to a booth, and I definitely wasn't in the mood for a booth this year. So we are going to be there. I'll have a few of us. I'll have Rob Pinella from my New York office. I will have Jack McKenna, my CEO and president, there, and little old me. And we will be just super excited to be able to see everyone in person again. I cannot tell you how excited I am to meet with everybody and light up a cigar and have a good time.
Good. You'll be working the room. That's excellent. Tell us what's going on in the cyber world today.
Sure. So this week, the Baltimore Sun shared an article titled Ransomware Negotiator. What bothers me most is how preventable this all is. Studies show that more than 80% of last year's ransomware attacks focused on something called remote desktop protocol. So companies are not implementing simple security controls on RDP, and the threat actors are exploiting it. So fixing that alone would substantially reduce the number of soft targets for ransomware attacks. And ransomware actors love their soft targets. They're easy money. So every company should definitely strive to not be that low hanging fruit. Also, implementing multi factor authentication, and finally, enforcing internal policies around strong passwords and banning the use of those passwords on personal accounts would effectively fully vaccinate organizations from ransomware. So, just three simple steps, and they're claiming 99.2% protection. So, you can't beat those odds. It's worth making sure that those three things are at least done. Loss Prevention Media shared an article titled T-Mobile's Recent Data Breach and Two-Factor Authentication. What might be more alarming than the breach itself is part of the breach also leaked IMEI and IMSI information. So those are the identifier numbers associated with each mobile phone, which compromises the security of the SMS-based two-factor authentication. We're always pushing multi-factor authentication for you. This is a back-end vulnerability with it. So if you've ever received a text message with a one-time passcode to log into your bank or other online service, then you've used SMS-based two-factor authentication. So most organizations in finance, healthcare, and government all use a 2FA through SMS messages as an extra layer of security to prevent unauthorized access with just a username and password. So, but two-factor authentication using that isn't as secure as you might think, because the unique identifier for each mobile phone and SIM card the hacker can use to duplicate someone's SIM card and gain access to the phone number. So, by requesting the one-time passcode be sent to their phone number, they can enter your account, transfer money out of your bank accounts, and even lock you out completely. So cyber experts are calling on consumers to stop using 2FA. Again, this is one of those FBI ransomware don't pay it kind of things where until we have a better alternative, we have to use something rather than nothing. But it's definitely becoming a bigger issue. So again, the better solution in this situation would be to use an authenticator like Google Authenticator or Authy or something along those lines, but more to be concerned about with your mobile security. So Martinell shared a super creepy YouTube video titled How to Find Hidden Cameras in Airbnb. With all of us heading to GSX, I'm sure we're all going to be looking for this in our rooms, but this won't turn any of us into experts in detection, but it will expose some maybe obvious or perhaps not so obvious ways that cameras might be concealed and just how to look for them in your room. So I'll be sure to link that for you below. So Tomas Maldonado shared a PR Newswire Global CISO report identifies cybersecurity shortcomings at the structural cultural level. It cites a study by Marlon Hawk titled Global Snapshot, the CISO in 2021. So for this year's report, they analyzed the profiles of the top 470 CISOs across North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. So they found that banks and insurers were primary targets, with 74% of financial institutions reporting a rise in cybercrime, and 42% of those attributing it to the reduction in security due to remote working conditions. So, in the face of these challenges and mounting fiscal pressure, the CISO emerged as one of the most resilient and dynamic members of the C-suite. You all probably already knew that. Key findings from their research includes that 53% of global CISOs have been in their current role for 2 years or less, meaning that they assumed a new position during the pandemic. Approximately 64% of those global CISOs were hired from another company, indicating that most organizations fall short when it comes to retaining a CISO successor. 4% of global CISOs analyzed are women, only 14%, and approximately 21% are non-white. Definitely room for improvement there. In addition to gaining a newfound leverage over key aspects of technology agenda, CISOs are gaining influence across the business. The change in the working and purchasing habits means that security has emerged as a key differentiator for the board, who are frequently consulting the CISOs now on a broad range of topics, such as information security risk, business security risk, cloud investment. Additionally, as remote work evolves into a more permanent hybrid model, CISOs are being consulted on investment decisions when it comes to real estate. So while reporting lines for the CISO are still slowly shifting, what is clear is that the CISOs continue to elevate higher within the organization. And in some, we're seeing this trend with 59% already reporting to the CEO. So the more visible and financially measurable the impact of ransomware breaches and the loss of public trust is playing, the closer the CEO may want their CISO by their side. So in larger companies where the CISO reports to the CEO, it's often because a breach or a failure in the InfoSec's governance has already occurred, and the CISO was appointed to the executive committee as a response measure. So despite that, cybersecurity has emerged as a key priority for many corporate boards. Representation for the CISOs at board level is still super low. Marlin Hawk research revealed that only 1% of boards included an executive that has spent the majority of their career as a CISO. So definitely has been an acceleration for progress prompted by the pandemic and the escalation of threats, but still a ton of work to be done. And Bob Carver shared a threat post article with a horrible example of insider threat titled AT&T Phone Unlocking Malware Ring Cost Carrier $200 Million. A ringleader of a 7-year phone unlocking and malware scheme is headed to prison for 12 years after he compromised AT&T's internal networks to install credential thieving malware. The criminal was convicted of grooming AT&T employees at a Washington call center to take part in the scam. First bribing them to use their AT&T credentials to sever their phones from the AT&T network for customers still under contract, meaning that those customers could take their newly independent phones to any other service. Then later, he asked his accomplices in the call center to install the malware and hacking tools that allowed him to unlock phones remotely from Pakistan. This kind of access could have been used for all different kinds of cyber attacks, such as ransomware or wide-scale espionage efforts, but the attacker's only goal seemed to be the mobile phone heist. So AT&T's forensic analysis showed that in all, 1.9 million phones were unlocked, and it ended up costing AT&T $200 million in potential cellular telephone subscriptions. Important to update and put processes in place to detect and investigate these scams in every insider threat program. Feel free to reach out if we can help with that. Bob Carver and James W. shared ZDNet's article titled iOS 15 lets you spy on apps that might be spying on you. In this new update, you can toggle record app activity in your privacy settings. And after a few days, view the generated report that lets you know when certain apps are accessing things like your photo library, camera, microphone, your contacts, your media library, location data, screen sharing. It also records what domains any app accesses and how many times they're accessed. So let's hope Android follows suit on this too, and that the app developers and the data collectors start to get the hint that we are no longer complacent about who has access to our data and what it's used for. Bob Carver also shared an unsettling ZDNet article titled "More than 1 in 3 people have tried to guess someone else's password, 3 in 4 succeed." Lots of this is related to interpersonal and family relationships, like a spouse or a child, but this is still incredibly creepy. In many cases, the target is using guessable or searchable references in their passwords, which I'm pretty sure you all know better than to use, right? Until the entire world is passwordless, I'm still going to suggest that you use a good password manager with unique and complex passwords. And that's what I have for you all this week. I am looking forward to seeing your smiling faces in Orlando at GSX. Please don't be a stranger. Feel free to come up and say hello. So, in the meantime, I hope everyone has a great week, and I will look forward to seeing you all